All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're taking a look at hydrocephalus.
Okay.
And we're going to be looking at it through the lens of a children's book called Henry the Hemp and Hydrocephalus.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So this should be pretty interesting because it's, a pretty complex medical topic explained
Yeah.
through a pretty simple, format.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a really interesting way to approach it because sometimes these medical conditions can be very intimidating, especially for children.
Yeah, definitely. And even for adults, I think,
No, actually,
absolutely.
yeah.
Having a fun and engaging way to learn about them can be really helpful.
hmm
So what is hydrocephalus?
Well, in the simplest terms, hydrocephalus is when you have too much cerebrospinal fluid in the brain.
Okay.
And that cerebrospinal fluid is what cushions and protects your brain and your spinal cord, kind of circulates around. But when there's too much of it, it builds up, and that creates pressure, and that pressure can lead to a whole bunch of problems.
Gotcha. So like a buildup of pressure in the brain.
Yeah.
And the book actually talks about how hydrocephalus has been understood and treated throughout history.
Yeah.
It even mentions ancient Egypt.
It's fascinating, right?
What did they do back then?
Well, believe it or not, they were already trying to relieve that pressure in the brain.
Oh, wow.
They used a technique called trepanation, which is basically drilling holes in the skull.
Ooh.
Yeah, to try and drain the fluid.
That sounds pretty intense.
It is a very drastic measure, but it shows how long people have been recognizing and trying to address hydrocephalus.
Yeah, definitely. So the book also talks about the symptoms of hydrocephalus in a way that's, easy for kids to understand, like
Yes.
headaches and fatigue and balance issues.
hmm
But why do those specific symptoms occur?
Well, think of it this way. Your brain is this incredibly complex and delicate organ.
Right.
When there's extra pressure pushing on it from the inside, things start to go wrong.
Oh, okay.
Headaches are a direct result of that pressure, kind of like a squeezing feeling inside your head. Fatigue sets in because your body is working overtime trying to compensate for this imbalance.
I see.
And balance problems arise because the cerebellum, the part of your brain that controls coordination, is being affected by that pressure.
Makes sense. I like how the book introduces us to other kids who are living with hydrocephalus.
Yeah.
Just showing how they manage their condition and live full lives.
It's really important for kids to see that they're not alone in this.
Yeah, for sure.
That there are others out there who understand what they're going through.
Right. And that it doesn't have to define them.
Exactly.
Exactly. So speaking of managing the condition, Henry the Hemp explains the different types of shunts
Oh, yeah.
that are used to treat hydrocephalus.
Yeah.
You've got VP shunts, VA shunts, LP shunts, and even programmable shunts.
It's pretty amazing the technology they have now.
Yeah. So how do these shunts actually work, and why would a doctor choose one type over another?
Okay, so shunts are basically like little drainage systems for the brain. They're designed to redirect that excess cerebrospinal fluid to another part of the body where it can be absorbed.
I see.
So, for example, a VP shunt drains the fluid from the ventricles in the brain to the peritoneal cavity in the abdomen.
Okay.
A VA shunt drains it to the atrium of the heart.
Gotcha.
The choice of which shunt to use depends on a lot of factors, like the individual patient, the location of the blockage, things like that.
Right.
Programmable shunts are really cool because they allow doctors to adjust the flow of fluid without having to do another surgery.
Oh, wow. That's pretty advanced.
It is. It's a big step forward in treatment.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So the book really emphasizes this message of hope that with the right treatment, kids with hydrocephalus can thrive.
Absolutely.
But what are some of the challenges that they might still face?
Well, one of the main challenges is that shunts can sometimes malfunction.
Oh, right.
And when that happens, it often requires another surgery to fix it.
Okay.
Some kids with hydrocephalus might also need ongoing therapy or support to address things like developmental delays or learning challenges.
I see.
But the key is early diagnosis and intervention.
Right.
The earlier you catch it and start treatment, the better the outcomes tend to be.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So we've gone from ancient skull drilling to programmable shunts. It's amazing how far we've come.
It really is.
What do you think is the biggest takeaway from this book's unique approach to explaining hydrocephalus?
I think the biggest takeaway is that we can find creative ways to explain complex medical conditions to children.
Yeah,
And in doing so, we can help them to understand and accept their condition.
for sure.
And it makes me wonder, what other creative approaches could we use to make these topics more accessible to everyone?
That's a great question. Maybe we need more Henry the Hemps out there.
Maybe we do.
Well, thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into hydrocephalus.
It was my pleasure.
And for all of you listening out there, be sure to check out Henry the Hemp and Hydrocephalus for a fun and insightful look at this condition. Until next time, keep on exploring.